Please be seated. I America going. Seeing my son there. Dignitaries, eminent leaders, civil society activists, people from Parakala and Jharkhand who are very dear to Father Swamy, and all of my dear friends. I extend a very warm welcome to one and all on behalf of the organizers. Today, we commemorate the life, witness, and the martyrdom of Father Swamy, a martyr for justice, a voice for the voiceless, companion to the marginalized, person who's of hope, who stood for the oppressed, and who chose to live with truth and justice. In his own words, let me give you some background into why I am under the investigation. The first reason is about my involvement in helping the youth fight for their rights and the marginalized. When Jharkhand became a state during the past 5 decades, I have tried to identify myself with the Adivasis and their struggle for life with dignity and self-respect. I have strongly disagreed with the setting up of a land bank, which I see as the most recent plotted and alleged Adivasis, because it claims that all the common land belongs to the government and it is free to elicit to anybody to set up their small and big industries. I have challenged the indiscriminate arrest of thousands of Adivasis and Moravadis under the label of offences, just because they question and resist the unjust land alienation and displacement. Father Swamy speaks in a quiet voice. Are not animals to be driven away from their homeland. Father Swamy had meticulously documented all the violations committed and profits gained by the mining companies. He had even calculated how much natural wealth the Adivasis have lost when their natural habitat has lost, taken over by the corporates. In recent years, Father Swamy had lashed out against several forms of acquiring land and the throwaway prices. He was responsible for steering a movement to save the youth from such trouble. In 2014 and 15, he formed the Persecuted Prisoner Solidarity Committee following the indiscriminate arrest of hundreds and thousands of Adivasis and Dalit youth. Today, as we celebrate his 5th anniversary of martyrdom, we have gathered here to imitate, to be inspired, and to be led by his life. I invite the dignitaries to the stage now. Dr. Parakala, may I request Doctor to come over to the stage, please. Let's give him a big hand. Father Shailendra, Professor Kodaguna, Professor Parakala, Professor Parakala, Sri Akunori Murali, Ms. Sarah Matthews, Dr. Parakala Prabhakar, Professor Parakala, Brother Baptiste Pekana, Father Kishore, the Superior and the Correspondent of St. Patrick's. And here's the one that used to get so much space. Father Thomas Parakala, SDB. Is Father Thomas here? Miss Meera Sakamitra. Meera. Father Thomas also. That's now the song being sung by Mr. Sunil Murgala and his team. I request Father Kishore, the superior of this community, to garland the photograph of Father Stan Swamy. Father Kishore, please garland. Let's give a big hand.
అందుకే మరణమైన మధురమే యేసు పాదయాత్రలో స్వామి గారి మరణం దేవునికి ఎంతో ఇష్టమైనది. మరణమైన మధురమే యేసు పాదయాత్రలో మరణమైన మధురమే యేసు పాదయాత్రలో
part of the ceremony to extend a words of welcome to all the dignitaries and to the people who are part of the ceremony today.
Good evening to everyone. We all gather here this evening to commemorate the martyrdom of a person, a Jesuit, social worker, deeply committed to the cause of the poor, the marginalized, especially the Dalits and the Adivasas in the forest. For the Swamy, social organizations such as we see the Catholic Association of Hyderabad, CITRA, Center for Information, Training, Research and Action, a social center run by the Jesuits in Hyderabad, and One Social Institute, MSI, Human Rights Forum, National Dalit Christian Watch, Progressive Organization of Women, and all these civil society organizations have come together to take forward the legacy of our Swamy. Before I extend my warm welcome to each and every one of you present here, I would like to briefly introduce myself who I am. For the second, a Jesuit, just traveled all the way from the Bhadrachalam forest yesterday night and arrived morning. And yesterday we had a beautiful conversation with the forest officials and the Goti Koya tribes in the remote villages of Chittoor, London. And there, I was talking to them about how the state society and the civil society have to come together in order to bring progress, development among the people of this nation, especially the poorest of the communities scattered in the country all over, especially the Dalits and the tribals, the Adivasas. But unfortunately, in our human experience, we find the state society and the civil society both are antagonistic to each other. As a result, we do find chaos, confusion, atrocities. All of these things are implicated on the people. And sometimes we forget, we are unable to recognize the people in the civil society who are for the people, for the country, and for everything that we dream of. Many members of the civil society are misunderstood because of their stand, because of their commitment, because of their dedication for the poorest of the poor. As a result, we find the state society looking at a few individuals in the civil society as if they are against the government, against the nation, against the progress this country. In that long story of our experience, we find a person like Swamy were victimized. His death, we are all of us are aware of. It is not yet the custodial death, it is yet the custodial murder. And we all of us know how much this person, not only stands for me, there are many other individuals in the country who were working for, walking with the poor, the tribal, and the marginalized of this society. And such people were falsely implicated as if they were criminals, as if they were working against the government. My dear friends, all those who are gathered here for this memorial day of Father Swamy, we need to realize and understand that the state society doesn't come from above as it is. The state society is formed from the civil society. It is the civil society representatives who hold the responsibility of the state society who are supposed to deliver justice and stand for the truth. And today is the day that the civil society members of this Hyderabad city, as well as various eminent personalities on this stage, Dr. Parakala Prabhakar, who is going to give an address to all of us about the condition of our country today and how the civil society and state society are struggling, trying to understand each other in order to move forward towards progress and development. And there are many other civil society leaders. I find here on the stage Brother Burgess, the director of the MSI. And I do find Mr. Meera. And I find Professor Parakala. And I would just companion Dr. Sailendra. There are many distinguished guests on the stage and off the stage. On this day, I welcome you all in this evening that we have come together to form a solidarity group that never ever we will allow the state society to dominate over the civil society. It is the civil society that puts checks and balances for the state society. Otherwise, we will be victimized by the state society which goes against the civil society. That would be never imagined in a country like India where democracy has to prevail. On this occasion, on behalf of these organizing committees, I welcome you all and have a pleasant evening today at St. Patrick's campus. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you for the ceremony. Just before we begin our program, I would like to request all of the dignitaries on the stage to limit your time to 3 to 5 minutes. Due to time constraints that we have, except for Dr. Parakala Prabhakar, the exception. And I know a lot of people here are only to listen to you, Doctor, and we are truly privileged and blessed to have your presence, and big round of applause to Brother Burgess. Make it possible to have him announced. The sequence of today's program will be, before we hand over to our speakers who would focus on the legacy of our Swamy. We will have a preamble, followed by a special song composed by Mr. Lilith Suresh. Then we have the speakers who limit their timing to 3 to 5 minutes and go with the final thing of Dr. Parakala Prabhakar. May I now request all of you stand for a while and stretch your right hand, please. Repeat after me. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution. Please be seated. May I now request Mr. Lilith Suresh.
Thank you, sister. My dear fathers, brothers, sisters, and friends. So before I sing this song, I would like to recall a few lines from Pablo Neruda, from his poem. The title of the poem is Keeping Quiet. Keeping Quiet. The poem begins like this. Now we will come to 12. Now we will come to 12. And we will all keep still. Now we will come to 12. And we will all keep still. Poem goes like this. When Pablo Neruda says these words, he is not asking us to be silent in the face of injustice. He is inviting us to pause, to stop rushing and shouting and duly listening. Imagine a crowded railway station. Everyone is talking, running, and trying to reach somewhere. In all that noise, he cannot hear a train crying. But if for just a moment everyone stopped, the train's voice could become clear. Neruda's keeping still, the poem is like that. It is a pause that allows us to hear those whom the world has drowned out. Father Swamy heard those voices, the voices of Adivasis, the poor, the innocent, and the forgotten. He listened to them, walked with them, and stood by them. This song is a common theme to the listening, the compassion, and the unwavering commitment. Since now, let us all observe 12 seconds of silence, not only to remember Father Swamy, but to listen as he listened. Swamy, Janamanare Ravi, Vanajanamaravi, Tandri Stani, Rudu Swami, Girijana Priyuda, Jaya Ho Jai, Jaya Ho. Jo jo tandi jo jo kalaku nungulo kalatani duralo gubulu chulo eduru nadakalo amarula nungulo choradu padaga adadi talli koda adilo nani durinchu jo 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 tandi jo ఆదివాసుల పెద్ద కొడుకువై ఆదివాసుల పెద్ద కొడుకువై భరతమాతకు ముద్దుల బిడ్డవై హృదయము ఉదయమై తూర్పు ఎరుపై హక్కుల కోరున పొడవాలి జో జో తండ్రి జో జుం జుం పాడేదా తగ జుం ఆడేదా జుం జుం పాడేదా తగ జుం ఆడేదా గలగల ఆడేదా కణ కణ మండేదా జనగణ మనవై పరజన పేరుపై నవన తనువున నీ పేరు విరియాలి జో 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 తండ్రి జో 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 స్వామి జో జో స్వామి జనమనరేలవి మన జనబాలవి తండ్రి స్వామి ఋతు స్వామి గిరిజన ప్రియుడా జయ హో జయ జయ హో జయ స్వామి.
Mr. Suresh deserves a very big hand of applause. He's a composer, he's a writer, he's a dancer, he's a street kid. He's also co-founder for Chindu, the organization that deals with violence, peace, Dalits' rights, human rights, and many other things. Congratulations and thank you, Mr. Suresh. We warmly welcome Ms. Sandra Matthews. We are honored to have you with us. Thank you for coming. We now begin our themes of legacy to be shared, the reflections by various speakers who are on the stage. Among the first, Father Swamy is an Indian Jesuit priest, filmmaker, media educator, and researcher. He has been associated with Jesuit institutions and has worked extensively in media, communication, environmental communication, and documentary filmmaking. He directed a documentary, Kandaman Unresolved, which examines the 2008 Kandaman violence in Odisha. The film has been screened at education institutions to promote discussion on social justice and communal harmony. We warmly welcome you, Father, and I request Mr. J. Sudha to come and felicitate Father before he takes over and shares his reflection. Great J. Sudha from Catholic Association of Hyderabad.
The photo numbers.
Fellow Jesuits and all the civil society members. In these days of self-censorship, it's becoming quite difficult for people like us to come together and express what we observe. And today we taking this opportunity, we have all come together to pay tributes to Father Swamy. And I congratulate every one of us for having come together. The prophet Isaiah reminds us, learn to do good, seek justice, rescue the oppressed, defend the orphan, plead for the widow. Father Swamy did not merely preach these words. For more than 5 decades, he quietly lived them among adverse communities in Jharkhand, whose struggles became his own. This evening, we have gathered not merely to remember a Jesuit priest, not simply to honor a human rights activist. We gather because some lives continue asking questions even long after they are gone. Father Swamy is one such life. These questions have not disappeared. If anything, they have become more relevant and urgent. What made Father Swamy remarkable was not simply his courage. Many people are courageous. Nor was it only his suffering in the jail. For many people suffered in the jails. His uniqueness is something laid elsewhere. He brought together scholarship and simplicity, constitutional conviction and pastoral presence, intellectual rigor and deep companionship with ordinary Adivasis. He never claimed leadership over Adivasi communities. Now, did he appropriate their struggle for his personal recognition? He chose instead to live among them and work with them in humility and respect. That is proudly nation. Today, India is witnessing extraordinary progress. New highways, industrial corridors, number of ports, renewable energy projects, smart cities, and expanding infrastructure promising new opportunities for millions of Indians. We celebrate these development aspirations. But for the stand, Swamy gently invites us to ask a question. Development for whom? Development at whose cost? Development is necessary, but justice asks whether anyone is left affected in this pursuit of development. The question of development continues to stand before us. For the stand never asks for special privileges for anyone. He only reminded the governments that our constitution already guarantees important protections for Adivasi communities, like the 5th schedule, PESA, the role of Gram Sabhas, the Forest Rights Act. In recent years, amendments in forest governance, land administration, and amendment regulation have generated important debates about how these constitutional safeguards are to be understood and implemented. Whatever one's perspective may be, the question that stands before us: how do we ensure that development and constitutional justice come together? For the stand propagated something which the world is only now beginning to understand, the language of environmental justice. The forest is not merely a collection of trees. It is a living relationship between land, people, culture, memory, livelihood, and hope. When forests disappear, we lose more than biodiversity. We risk losing histories, identities, and entire ways of seeing the world. As Pope Francis reminds us, in order to see that everything is interconnected, Father Stan had lived that truth long before the world began speaking of integral ecology. The deepest question Father Stan leaves us with and asks us: what does justice look like in a constitutional democracy where development, national security, and human rights intersect? And I would like to read once again. What does justice look like in a constitutional democracy where development, national security, and human rights intersect? This is not merely for the Stan Swamy's question, but it's the question of many Indians, and it still stands before us. His arrest, prolonged imprisonment, and death in custody deeply disturbed the conscience of many in India and across the world. Whatever one's political convictions, they raise difficult questions about the dignity owed to every human person, especially the elderly, the sick, and those awaiting the trial. His life reminded us that even one person rooted in truth and solidarity can quietly unsettle systems that overlook the voices of the vulnerable. Once again, I would like to read. His life reminded us that even one person rooted in truth and solidarity can quietly unsettle the systems that overlook the voices of vulnerable. Perhaps the greatest tribute we can offer him is not an outrage, but a responsibility. A responsibility that comes to ourselves. If Father Stan Swamy remains only on a photograph or on a memorial gathering, a garland, or an anniversary, then we have not truly honored him. His legacy must become our examination of conscience. Before we leave this world today, perhaps each of us might quietly ask, whose suffering have I failed to notice? Whose voice have I chosen not to hear? Where have I remained silent when conscience invited me to speak? What kind of society am I helping to build through my choices? Shortly before the death of Father Stan Swamy said these words, "What is happening to me is not something unique happening to me alone. It is a broader process that is taking place all over the country. You are all aware how prominent intellectuals, lawyers, writers, poets, activists, student leaders all are put in jail because they have expressed their dissent and raised questions about the ruling powers of India. The Society of Jesus often speaks of a faith that does justice, a religion that justice. Father Stan never separated these two words, the faith and the justice. May this gathering not merely preserve his memory, may it shape our conscience, may it deepen our courage, may it strengthen our compassion, and may we continue to build an India where development is accompanied by justice, where progress is guided by compassion, where the Constitution protects the dignity of every person, and where, in the words of the Prophet Isaiah, we continue to learn to do good, seek justice, rescue the oppressed, defend the orphan, and plead for the widow. Thank you.
May I request Dr. Lubna Sarwak, environmentalist, who is among the audience, to come onto the stage. Dr. Lubna. May I also request the speakers to limit their timing as expressed to 3 to 5 minutes. We are having time constraints, so please, I request all of you to the next speaker in our list will be Dr. Professor Parakala. Because Professor Parakala has to leave for another meeting. Professor, we warmly welcome you, and we know that Professor Parakala is a prominent Indian academic and civil rights activist, and he is also working for decades at the University of Hyderabad, and is a visiting professor and has got a lot of credits to his. Dr. Please sit down and you can speak from your places. You can speak from your place.
Thanks, the really distinguished friends of the dais who represent the democratic voice of the civil society. Each one of them is inspired by Father stands for his martyrdom. Of course, my friend Sajja suggested to speak in the book. I am not when I speak in the book. Sajja can speak in English because now it's Hindi. We call martyrdom stands for me. Anything, sir? Non-opposite to honest, and their way of life is completely different from the mainstream. And he chose that type of people who are also exploited and then have been also fighting for their own survival. They were not fighting for the wealth or for, they were fighting for the survival. And they were the most exploited section of the society. What simple were not exploited, but they were. I think stands for me, he went there, and the very fact that he has gone to tribalism and fighting for them, which the Indian state, for some reason, thought that he was working or he had been accused of several things. But it's very surprising that when he was in the jail, he said one thing, that he saw a lot of humanity in the prison. See, in other words, he was such like those who are accused and are in the jail. Normally, all of us think that they are the criminals or they are the. But Stanford said that he saw a lot of humanity in the prison. But he is a victim of the brutalization of the state and also the institutions, whether it's the prison or the judicial institutions, the civil institutions. And in fact, he was continuously working against the mainstream detonation and dehumanization of the society. And he, being human, being humane, he has gone to serve the tribals and to fight on behalf of the tribals. But the Indian state somehow for reason have been jailed. And the dehumanization process of not only mainstream society which we are witnessing every day, but the jail, which is supposed to be a reformatory institution, which is supposed to be humanizing the prisoners and sending them back to the mainstream society, that's the purpose of jail. But the way jail behaving and the way they conducted is shocking. The nation was shocked because his health was not good and then he wanted a straw, this is the limit. He wanted a straw and the jail refused. You can't just believe that the jailers can be so inhuman. Their jailers can be so dehumanized. That this is the institutional dehumanization of the larger society. We recall his martyrdom wanted to see that there are human beings. There are human beings who do not live for themselves. There are human beings who want to transform the society, humanize the society. There are persons who are willing to suffer for the sake of the almost the essence of Christianity, that no suffering for the others. And concern, the human concern for other human beings. And Father stands for me, stands for noble values. And this martyrdom, we remember every year, we recall every year that there is somebody who stood for others, there is somebody who stood for noble values, was somebody who was deeply concerned about the present and the future. And only such human beings can be prepared to give up their life in the interest of the larger humanity, larger society. And that's the exact reason why all of us gather here to recall. We may not be able to stand the values that he said, but all of us would like to retain a part of humanity that he represented. And I think every year, last year also, we conduct like the same way. And he is a part of the collective memory for society. As stands for me, has not only inspired, but he has become a larger collective moral memory of the society. And their contribution will not go waste. their contribution will continue to inspire generation of generation. And we remember what is in human history. And he represents that great legacy of no sacrificing life for the better humanity, for the better society. And we pay our tributes to stand for me, partly as part of our humanity, and to humanize ourselves. And to also remember him, he is also a bit noble that here is a human being who gave up his life for the better humanity, for the better society. I think that's the greatest thing that human being can contribute, and stand for his contribution is going to be for the correct memory of history, and he will remember generations to come, and that will have a noble effect on the future generation. Because these are the people who have a rich legacy, and that legacy will be remembered by generations of generation. And I pay my own tributes to Father Swamy for the great value that he represented. And to put somewhere there for even history, even the superseded the chief guest. But I hope that the friends understand. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Father. It's always inspiring. May I now request Mr. Ivan Moss to felicitate Professor Parakala. Mr. Ivan Moss. Let's give him a big hand. We now have the most awaited and the most wanted, and to introduce him, I request Brother Varghese Naganath to come over, and over to you, Brother.
Distinguished guests, fellow activists and friends, we are here for the Father Swamy Memorial Lecture. Most of it has been introductions or reflections. A warm welcome to each of you. Today we gather to honor the enduring legacy of a man who personified courage, compassion, and unwavering commitment to justice. So many of us already shared what that meant. Father Swamy lived, as many said, among the most marginalized people, the Adivasis of Jharkhand, giving voice to the voiceless, standing up against systemic exploitation, even when he was falsely accused and unjustly incarcerated, his spirit remained unbroken. Though his tragic loss in custody deeply scarred our nation's conscience, his ideals continued to inspire countless others to defend constitutional values. And this brings us to the theme of this memorial lecture: who is suffering the Father Swamy and why? The theme of this memorial lecture is: who is afraid of Father Swamy and why? Father Stan was 84 years old, a Jesuit priest with Parkinson's disease. He did not wield weapons. His tools were truth, the law, and the defense of the rights of the indigenous people. Why then did the might of the state view him as such an existential threat? The answer lies in the uncomfortable mirror he held up to power. Father Stan's life challenged the powerful narratives of unbridled resource extraction and state authoritarianism. He proved that when the marginalized are educated about their constitutional rights, they become an unstoppable force. Those who feared him were not afraid of the man himself, but of the democratic awakening that he cost and the accountability from the state that he championed. To help us unpack these vital questions this evening, we are privileged to have with us today one of India's most incisive political economists and public intellectuals, Dr. Parakala Prabhakar. Let's give him a round of applause. Not for his fearless critiques and deep understanding of the Indian political economy, Dr. Prabhakar will guide us through the socio-political realities that made Stan's work so vital and so dangerous to the establishment. We are deeply honored to have you, sir, with us this evening. We look forward to listening to your insights on the forces that shape our democracy today and the lessons we must draw from Father Stan's life in this context. Thank you all those on the stage and off the stage who are present for this memorial lecture. Over to you, sir, please.
There is an issue concerning the sound and the volume that is on the stage. Those of you who are seated on the stage, if you would like to come down to get a better of what Dr. Prabhakar will be saying, you can come down. And the volunteers can get the chairs down, please.
Brother Verghese and my dear friends, I felt sad. I was actually moved to tears when Father Swamy died. There was a chapter on him in my book, The Crooked Timber of New India. The title of the chapter is Who Killed Father Swamy? You would have noticed that I asked, who killed Father Swamy? And I knew that he did not simply die. I meant that he was indeed killed. Today, I am not asking the same question. I am asking a different one. Who is afraid of Swamy? Who is afraid of him? I further ask, why are they afraid of him? In April this year, I went to Akecha, Namdal, on the outskirts of Ranchi. I spent 2 days there. I delivered a lecture on the occasion of Father Swamy's Jayanti. It was called Swamy Jayanti Vimarshan. Today I am here not to share my sorrow with you. I am here to celebrate the life of Father Swamy and together with you to draw inspirations from the values he stood for and his work to uphold those values. I'm grateful to the organizers for giving me an opportunity to speak on this occasion. Before I proceed further, I would like to caution you about a few things that worry me these days. Some of you might have come across these alarm bells. I say these cautionary words whenever I get an opportunity to address a gathering, big or small. Those who heard these few lines before should forgive me for repeating. I repeat them because I strongly feel that they are important and bear repetition. First, if some people in this gathering think that we can continue to hold this kind of meetings in future, I appeal to them to shed that delusion. Even now, in many parts of the country, it is becoming increasingly difficult to air our views freely and without consequences. If things go the way they are going now, soon it will be impossible to hold such meetings. Second, this year, it is nearly certain that our beloved tricolor will fly on the Red Fort on our Independence Day. But come next year, I'm not sure. Anyone here can guess the color of the flag that is likely to fly. Third, recently, the Union Home Ministry has issued a circular. It makes the singing of all the 6 stanzas of Vande Mataram compulsory. It also specified that it should be sung before Jana Gana Mana. If the present drift continues, and it continues unchecked, sooner than later, Jana Gana Mana will be gradually phased out. If the 10-hour marathon debate on Vande Mataram in our Lok Sabha tells us anything, it is this. Our parliament does not discuss people's issues anymore. It has no time for them. There has been no discussion on unemployment, price rise, situation in Manipur, rural distress in the country, falling exchange value of the rupee, Operation Sindhu, Chinese occupation of large tracts of our territory, falling domestic investment, and many such urgent issues. But our Lok Sabha found time for a 10-hour marathon discussion on Vande Mataram. If we let the present drift continue unchecked, these 3 dangerous possibilities will soon be realities. There's one more danger in the making, the 4th one. Recently, government has constituted a high-level committee on demographic changes. You have to read its terms of reference to understand its import and what it could do to our society. The repeated use of the term illegal immigration is a giveaway of the present dispensation's intentions behind embarking on such an exercise. When I remember Father Swamy, and think of how we look at him, and how the regime looked at him, I am reminded of William Blake's lines. A tree that moves some to tears, a tree that moves some to tears, to others is a green thing that stands in the way. And man is, so he sees. We all share a set of values and ideals. The best expression of those values was given by Father Swamy himself just before his arrest on 8th October 2020. I quote, this is what he said. Over the last 2 decades, I have identified myself with the Adivasi people and their struggle for a life of dignity and self-respect. In this process, I have clearly expressed my dissent over several policies and laws enacted by the government in light of the Indian Constitution. I have questioned the validity, legality, and justice of several steps taken by the government and the ruling class. If this makes me a Deshadrahi, then so be it. We are part of the process. In a way, I am happy to be part of this process. I am not a silent spectator, but part of the game and ready to pay the price. Whatever it may be, we must be ready to face the consequences. I would just add that what is happening to me is not unique. Many activists, lawyers, writers, journalists, student leaders, poets, intellectuals, and others who stand for the rights of Adivasi, Dalits, and the marginalized and express their dissent to the ruling powers are being targeted. I am grateful to all who have stood in solidarity with me all these years. This is what Father Swamy said just before his arrest. Now, let me take out the important words and expressions from what he said and make it historical. These are the words. Adivasis, Dalits, the marginalized, ruling powers, struggle for a life of dignity and self-respect, dissent, solidarity, Indian Constitution, validity, legality, justice, Deshadrahi, silent spectator, pay the price, face the consequences. These are very important words from what he said just before the arrest. Let me look at the economic situation of the country. There are some stubbornly enduring features of the present dispensation in the economic domain. It is not able to shed them, even well into its third consecutive term. What are they? Ad hocism in policy making, reluctance to learn from past mistakes, denial of lived economic reality of the common people, massaging of data to present a rosy picture of the economy, believing its own propaganda, though it's initially meant for setting clear narratives, wrongly interpreting its electoral successes as an endorsement, if not an outcome, of its record of economic performance. The government remains resilient in sticking to the denial mode. It denies it. It takes little note of the economic slowdown, the tapering of capital inflows into the country, flight of capital from India, decline in the domestic private investment, despite reduction in corporate taxes, the much higher production incentive scheme, and the so-called crowding in of public investment. The unorganized sector in the country is largely in decline or in stagnation. There is absolutely no concern to the dispensation. We all know that this is the sector that can give at least subsistence incomes to a vast majority of our people. Instead, the present dispensation is spending time ideating on how to add more momentum to the reforms journey, ensure ease of living and ease of doing business. For whom? Evidently, for a few of its cronies. Much of the credit offtake in the country is now for consumption, not for investment. Problems such as rising cost of living, especially for the poor and the marginalized, unacceptably high youth unemployment, and unemployment among the educated do not matter to it. One of the high-profile economic policy makers is on record saying that it was not lack of opportunities, but lack of aspiration among our youth that kept our young people out of work. Little did they realize that both the organized and unorganized sectors are unable to absorb our labor force, especially our youth. Rising economic inequality does not matter to the dispensation. Its policy specialists even exhort us not to lose sleep over inequality. This inequality is good. The present dispensation lacks appetite for an honest review of its past initiatives and for course correction. The demonetization has done little to serve any objective. Collection, lazy and erroneous proxy, reporting, analyzing, and computing have come under the cloud. Our statistical architecture is today undependable. It is recognized as untrustworthy by global financial agencies. The Planning Commission was perhaps oversized and might not have been the most efficient institution. But at least it did not give the government of the day inaccurate data to tailor to suit its political needs. Its replacement, today what we have, the Niti Aayog, is yet to do anything worthwhile in the last 12 years, other than giving data suited to the dispensation's political needs. It's only doing that. The Reserve Bank of India has been giving billions of dollars to protect the rupees exchange rate vis-a-vis the US dollar. However, its intervention would only prevent a sudden steep fall, but not arrest the currency's deep slide. Rupee continues to reach newer lows every trading day. The government does not seem to have come to grips with the fundamental problems facing the rupee and figure out why it is the worst performing Asian currency today. It is the worst performing Asian currency today. It is in denial on dispensation. It wants to look for reasons only the global admits. The present dispensation is genetically unfit to getting the economy right. It can't. It's genetically unfit. Its sole preoccupation is to recast. Its sole preoccupation is to recast the polity in a majoritarian mode. It is no economic project for the country. Its sole aim seems to be the enrichment of a few of its employees. It would be a mistake to think that the last 12 years have been bad for the country's economic performance alone. The present dispensation is fundamentally altering the political society of the country. That is equally a serious problem. The present dispensation is fiendishly working to dismantle the idea of India as a secular, plural, and federal state that pledged itself to delivering liberty, equality, justice, and fraternity to its people and to foster a humane society. That idea of India, embedded in our 1947 tryst with destiny and the political compact enshrined in our 1950 Constitution, are now in mortal danger. The secular, plural, democratic conception of India has been the target of unrelenting assaults from this dispensation and several other past-worshipping obscurantist platforms. They have been openly and doggedly championing an unequal social order. Their project is to seek India's future, its past. To recover from that imaginary past, have fabricated pristine glory. To turn the secular democratic republic into a culturally, linguistically, religiously homogenized nation. The idea that Indian civilization is a synthesis and a palimpsest is abhorrent to them. Their project's notion of India seeks to obliterate the rich diversity of cultures, languages, lifestyles, eating habits, sartorial practices, ways of worship, and syncretism that our country is blessed with. A flattened India is their notion of a civilizational state. That is the goal of the current dispensation. Special Intensive Division, SIR, of electoral rolls is but one key element in a grand project that seeks to assert exclusive Hindu ownership of the Indian nation. To make that Hindu nation the sole rightful resident in the territory of the Indian state and turn it into a Hindu nation, Hindu state, a Hindu Rashtra. It seeks to redefine the country's identity as Hindu nation state. In that configuration, in that Hindu nation, Hindu state configuration, Savarna is deliberately muted and made illegible for the time being for tactical reasons. Eventually, when constraints are broken, it would be unveiled as a full-blooded, unapologetic, wall-to-wall Savarna Hindu Rashtra. Make no mistake about it. When we became a republic, our founding parents made it a home for everyone who lived in this country. Membership of the republic and citizenship were not predicated on religion, caste, gender, language, culture, region of residence, color, economic status, educational qualifications, and such other attributes. Everyone who chose India as their land of residence was a citizen, also a voter, and thus a full-fledged member of the country's political society. Everybody. Denominational attributes did not privilege one or the other as rightful owners of the nation. Everybody was. Janma Bhumi was the sole criterion. We did not entertain Punya Bhumi as a criterion for our citizenship or membership of our political society, ever. But Europe went through a different experience when nation states were formed. There were people who rightfully belonged and those who were others or minorities in Europe. That was the basis of European nation states. There were majorities and minorities. Not political. It was not a political majority, political minority. But on the basis of birth, race, religion, language, culture. Minorities' residence was predicated on their becoming tolerable to the majorities. A minority has to become tolerable to reside in that country, in the state. European countries and the countries which adopted that model of building their nation states either subjugated minorities, pushed them out of their territories, or even exterminated them, killed them. Beginning from the cleansing of the Iberian Peninsula in the mid and late 15th century, until the ethnic cleansing that Israel carries out today, history is witness to many bloody attempts to forge a homogenized nation. Nazi gas chambers were the most dastardly consequence of this kind of a thinking. But in India, our founding parents and freedom fighters chose a different path. They designed our collective life in a way that the state gave room for everyone, despite their diversity, to live together and thrive. But ideologies in India that drew their inspiration from the inhumane European concept of nation-owned state want our republic too to be turned into a state owned by one nation, the Hindu nation. The present dispensation belongs to that ideological state. In its conception of a republic, the others needed to be assimilated to the point of obliterating their respective identities, pushed out of the territory of the nation state, or exterminated through genocide. Remember, the ideological formulation articulated by the current ruling dispensation a few years ago. It said that there are three ways to deal with the minorities: Tiraskar, rejection; Puraskar, appeasement; Samskar, reform and assimilation. This was the 3-point formula. Initially, when the country's secular consensus was strong, it said that it was not practical to reject large minorities. So, Tiraskar was pulled out. But at the same time, it said that appeasement or Puraskar was not an ideal option. Tiraskar would not work. Puraskar should not work. But it wanted to work on the gradual assimilation of minorities, that is, samskar. You reform them and make them assimilate into your culture, your religion, your belief system, your language, your everything else. Now try to remember the expressions from some majoritarians, like that individual is a Christian, but a good person. Christian but good. That person is a Muslim, but a good individual. Meaning, despite being a Christian or a Muslim, they are like us, and therefore tolerable and acceptable. That is the harmless looking beginning to the formulation that others had to become tolerable and acceptable to earn their right to be part of India. After a few years of unsuccessful dabbling in that experiment, the current dispensation, its ideology, finally brought back the initial discarded option onto the top of its political agenda, that is, rejection, Tiraskar. With the weakening of the secular consensus, or even its breakdown, rejection has now morphed and changed into ejection. Ejection from the country's political society. Remember what the BJP leader Sri L.K. Advani used to say with reference to Muslim minority. He said, with you, without you, in spite of you. Meaning, if you come and go, it's okay. If they come along, they'll go with you. If they don't, they go without them. If they oppose, then in spite of you. With you, without you, in spite of you. If you come along, I go with you. If you don't, still I go along. Even if you fight me, I'll still go. With you, without you, in spite of you. That is a pointer to the exclusion of minorities if they do not play along and assimilate or accept, what do they want them to accept? They want them to accept subordinate place and an unequal place in the country's political, economic, and social life. Lynchings, bulldozing of houses, vandalizing of churches on Christmas Eve, what is happening in Manipur are physical expressions of these formations. Don't make a mistake. Today, look at the political reality of our country. For the first time in the history of independent India, the Union Council of Ministers has no representative from either the Muslim or the Christian minority community. The first time. A few weeks ago, even the token presence of a Christian minority in the Union Ministry was dispensed with. Did you notice? Not that he did anything great when he was there. Nobody even knew that he was there. Sorry to say it. The task of exclusion in the domain of political representation in the executive is more or less accomplished. Look at how it is unfolding. But what could be done about the political society? What do we do with that? In the present day, India, both the pushing out and physical extermination of unassimilated minorities are politically impractical. You can't do that. You can't push them out. You can't exterminate them. However, extermination of a political kind of the others is still possible. Instead of exterminating the citizen, citizenship would be exterminated. The ongoing SIR is the weapon forged for that kind of extermination. It exterminates citizenship of those unwanted, impure elements by exterminating their franchise. It is clear to everyone here that without franchise, citizenship is hollow, without substance. Disenfranchisement hollows out citizenship. Therefore, SIR is nothing but a bloodless political genocide. It exterminates citizenship, pushes people out of the political society, makes people stateless even as they continue to live within the borders of the Indian state. What CAA NRC could not do, what CAA NRC could not do, SIR is tasked to accomplish. The idea of India as a nation state, in contradistinction to the idea of India as a state nation, in contradistinction to a nation state that is home to diverse peoples, cultures, languages, and religions, is being dismantled at a foundational base. This is the place where we need to recall the key words that I listed out from the statement made by Father Stanson just before he was taken into custody on 8th October 2020. Let me utter those words once again here, just to remind you. Adivasis, Dalits, marginalized, ruling powers, struggle for a life of dignity and self-respect, dissent, solidarity, Indian Constitution, validity, equality, justice, Deshdohi, silent spectator, pay the price, face the consequences. Many studies have already established that it is the Adivasis, the Dalits, the marginalized sections, and specifically women among them who are being systematically targeted for deletion in the ongoing process of SIR. Father Swamy would have stood for them. Today, many in both the rural and urban India are battling for a life of dignity and self-respect. Father Swamy would have helped them wage those battles. He would have given them the much needed solidarity. Our country's social compact of secularism, plurality, federalism, diversity, justice, fraternity, equality, and liberty are in mortal danger today. Father Swamy would not have been a silent spectator in the face of an onslaught on these core values of our Constitution. He would not have been a silent spectator. He would have listened, been called a Deshdohi, and spoken out for them. He was already called that. That Deshdohi title was not new to him. He would not have minded being called a Deshdohi 1,000 times more and pay the price. And if he were to express his dissent and face the consequences, whatever they might be, I'm sure he would want us to do that. Don't you think? Father Swamy did not make noise. He was quietly working in the remote and neglected parts of the country. The current dispensation was afraid of a frail, unwell octogenarian. That is because he personified all the values that are needed for our country, that are dear to us, but are inimical to the project of the powers that be in Delhi. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Prabhakar, for that profoundly moving, intellectually sharp, and deeply courageous address. You have masterfully dismantled the manufactured fear surrounding Father Swamy's legacy and laid bare the reasons why an 84-year-old humanitarian human being became the ultimate challenge to authoritarian power. The final words that you said, Father Swamy did not make noise. He was quietly working in the remote and neglected parts of the country. The current dispensation was afraid of a frail, unwell octogenarian. The current dispensation will continue to be afraid of all those who silently work to give voice to the voiceless. Thank you for dissecting the state of our country so passionately Normally, for a memorial lecture, there are no questions, no clarifications asked normally, and he reminded me about that. But then he said, maybe we can spend a few minutes taking a few questions if there are, before we move on to the other very eminent civil society leaders here, maybe on this occasion of the memorial, fifth memorial lecture of our Swamy. We will have others paying their homage and making your reflections. So before that, if there are a few questions that you want to take, Dr. Prabhakar is ready. Please pass on the mic if there are any.
Good evening, Dr. Prabhakar. I have a question about the concept of Hindu as a name. Anybody who says the other side of the river is an Hindu. If you go to China, if you go to Turkey, which I have been, they always call me a Hindu. They never called me as a Christian. I accepted that. And today, when we see that the ruling party is honoring the minorities, it is that history always says that its history has also been written.
Can you come over here, because it's not really available from here. And make your question. Yeah. Okay. I think it's I'll make your question brief and sharp.
So, I'm a student, I was a student of this school from the 1971 batch. When we talk about winner takes it all, the history says that history is written by the winner. Today, do you expect that BJP will do egalitarian society or carry out social justice? They will only do for themselves to keep up in power. That's what I believe that they are doing.
Thank you. We will take one or two questions more and maybe part of that. Yeah, please.
Dr. Father, I would like to get some clarification on the constitution, the initial constitution of the European nation states, which you said were largely majority. You said that the initial constitution of the European nation states were largely majoritarian, and that minorities were supposed to subscribe to the majoritarian ideas and survive there. So could you please elaborate on that? Because it is contrasting with what we see written in some other countries in Europe and US for that matter. You see that there is more of an absorption of diverse cultures within the European and American system now. I know Trump is there, but Mandan is also there. So similarly, in UK, I know Trump is there, Trump is ruling, but Mandan has also could also come up as the mayor of New York. Similarly, if you look at Britain, Britain has evolved into a much more of an inclusive country, drawing people from all parts of the former British colonies. But at the same time, I do accept that the initial constitution of various European countries had this majoritarian element involved in it. Could you please elaborate on it?
One question we will take before Dr. Prabhakar answers. I really request you to not make comments, but then the question that is sharp.
Dr. Prabhakar, thank you very much for the riveting question. In fact, I have been following many of the lectures, even the one which is delivered in Pune, and also read the book at Timber. So I would applaud the incision and the clarity with which you spoke about several issues that are confronting us. I have just one question, if you will. You could answer it if it is possible on this public forum, or maybe avoid answering it, because we will all understand the consequences that follow. Now, on the basis of whatever we discussed, whatever we have discussed so far today, do you think for this country and for the minorities and the Dalits and Adivasis in general, do you think there is a way to probably prescribe to undo the bad effects that are happening? If it is possible to answer, please do that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I heard you say that the next Independence Day, tricolor may not fly. That's a warning to the nation. It's more like that. Then what we should do to ensure that tricolor can fly again? That solution also here. Some kind of
Okay, we'll take one more. Okay, you can go to the second round. We'll take that. We'll give you the second round.
Thank you very much for, first of all, coming and listening to me. Usually, a memorial lecture format I have no problem. Because after all, stands for me to appreciate this. So, because as much as I do, Father stands for me also would not have believed in Monkey Mouth. Not one way conversation, but a two-way conversation. Before I attempt to answer any of your questions, you're able to hear me now? Let me first of all say that because Brother Verghese and other people called me to deliver this lecture, don't assume that I am everything. I don't. Just because I sat here, it makes no difference. You see, please remember, when the country's secular consensus was very strong, they also used to say they were secular. In fact, they were also socialists. The founding creed of the BJP was Gandhian socialism, 1980. Don't forget. And they also used to say We are also secular. But we are genuinely secular. Do you remember? Genuinely secular. But secular. Others are not genuinely secular. They're super secular. But BJP was genuinely secular. But let me ask you one question here. Last 10 to 12 years, have you heard any BJP political functionary say or utter the word secular? Have you? No. Still, once the society once the society's secular consensus has weakened or even broken, now they found the courage to say, no security. Have you come across this situation? So, absolutely no chance. Sir, about the European origins of the European nation state. Sir, I'm asking you a question. About the origins of the European nation state. Historically, it is normally dated to 1648. 1648, the Treaty of Westphalia. What was the Treaty of Westphalia? The Treaty of Westphalia was this. It was a peace treaty. Because what used to happen was, in a country, in a nation state, there was a majority and a minority. But this minority was a majority in the neighboring country. Then this below is a minority. Therefore, the other country where the majority is ruling and whose co-religion is or whoever is in the other country as a minority. When they found that they were being harassed, try to understand this. They used to invade. Got it? So therefore, what used to happen was used to go on happening between countries, saying one country used to invade the other country, saying you're harassing my people here. They're minority there. You're harassing me. I have to protect you. And that country used to invade another country, saying that my people are there as a minority, you're harassing them. Okay. That used to be the situation in Europe. In the 14th, 15th, 16th century. 16th century, 15th century, middle of 15th century, 16th, 14th, 17th century, was this treaty. The treaty said that a majority in any nation state has to take the obligation of protecting that minority. As long as that minority is protected and certain guarantees are given, the other country has no business in interfering. That was the treaty. Okay? But what did the nation states do? As far as possible, without inviting war, the harassment continued. And pressure was put on these minorities to discipline, to speak our language, to convert to our religion, or get out of it. And extreme situations where genocide took place. The kind of genocide that took place in the Iberian Peninsula after the Spaniards reconquered the Iberian Peninsula and pushed out both Jews as well as Muslims. Massive, bloodbath. So it continued. And it continued. The most dastardly thing was Nazi Germany. Now Israel. Now go to Karabakh, Rwanda. There are many places. Turkey, Hungary, many places. So the conception of a nation state is that we should all be one, a uniform. Diversity was not tolerated. When there is a diversity, pressure was put on them to assimilate. You're talking about inclusiveness. Now, if there is a lot of racism, there's a lot of discrimination, there's a lot of violence, mugging, etc., etc. It's still very common. But people give the example of the United States. People from different countries come here. It's a melting pot. But so that is a lie. I didn't buy it. It's a lie because American Declaration of Independence is 250 years, 1776. 1776, when the Declaration of Independence was made, they said everybody is equal, all of them are free creatures of God. They are now. Did that lofty declaration apply to the blacks? I did not. I did not. Now, why were the blacks? Did it apply to the Native Americans? So, who are equal? All the whites are equal. All the Europeans are equal. You see, he must also know that 95% of the Native American Indians, 95% of the Native American Indians were killed. Humans. And the remaining 5% now are in enclosures. They got reservations. They do not have full constitutional rights as a citizen like India. They don't. Their rights are not constitutionally guaranteed. They're statutory rights, which can be applied or which cannot be applied, will not be applied. Discretionary, not constitutional guaranteed. So, do not be under the illusion that these are all inclusive societies. Sorry, I'm taking more time, but I just want to make people understand the reality of European American civilizations. That if you look at it in that sense, India is a unique project. Never in the history of the world has an experiment like this has ever been even attempted. So many people, so many languages. Tell me one religion in the world which is not present in India. Every religion in the world is already here. So many languages, so many cultures, so many ways of life. Actually, a Christian in Kerala and a Christian in Himachal Pradesh are very different. A Hindu in Andhra Pradesh and a Hindu in Uttar Pradesh are very different. So, such a diversity. And Indian Constitution, Indian state pledging to respect this kind of a diversity, this kind of a pluralism, this kind of a syncretism, giving space to everybody, live together and thrive. Tell me who attempted it? Not even post Second World War. Why did Pakistan split into Bangladesh and Pakistan? Because Pakistani state could not accommodate the Bengali. Simple. So, this is a unique project. We have to protect and preserve this kind of a project and this kind of a unique experiment in the world. Is there a way to undo what has happened? This difficult question. There is a way. See, look at all these people, all these people who are now talking in such a pejorative language, very intolerant language. 15 years ago, 15 years ago, I remember, Honorable Swamy was here. Everybody was here. What changed? What changed is that if you do not resist, if you do not question this, they won't do it. But I have tremendous faith in this civil society. I have no faith, and I have no hesitation to say that I have no faith or trust in political parties. They won't do it. Because you see, most of the political parties today are very dead. They don't do anything between one election and the other election. They think that fighting election, if I tell you this particular thing you do, they'll tell you that. If they feel that, calling Baba Ramdev and making him into yoga and on a international yoga day will give them votes, they do that. We've seen those things. Yeah. On the one hand, we talk about water valley. On the other hand, you jump around with Baba Ramdev. Why do politicians do that? Because they think that gives them votes. But once, we don't tolerate that kind of thing. If you can, then they will stop you. Why did all these politicians talk about socialism? Why did all these politicians talk about secularism? Because that fits them both. Today, you have to bring that strong secular consensus. Now, here, I must tell you, I hear people say Nehru was good, Abdul Kalam Azad was good, somebody was good. Now, here, they were good. And we had maybe a tolerant country, tolerant state, secular, things. So, it was the supply side. It was not a response to the demand. My economics teacher, P.T. Thomas, used to tell us that, it's the supply side that should determine. It's the demand side, not the supply side. If you demand, then they will have to supply what you demand. And today, if you demand Hanuman Chalisa, they will give you Hanuman Chalisa. But if you say that I want Janagana, they will give you Janagana. Demand that I want this country to be pure. I want this country to be secure. I want this country to be tolerant. I want this country to work for equality, fraternity. Demand. If you don't demand, if you're passive, then they don't want you because it's easy to spread hate. Very easy. It doesn't take more than a minute. But if you have to take that hate out of the mind and fill it with goodwill, love, takes time. So we need to take time and work on it. My estimate is that whatever has happened in the last 10, 12 years, even if for some reason, even if the present dispensation is defeated in election, which is unlikely as long as you have whatever election system that we have, even if it is defeated, it will take at least 20 years to take the poison out of the minds of the people. But it won't go quite soon. We have to go. That's what Father Stan had done. That is the example. We have to do it. There is no other way. Please don't look at yourself as spectators. That's what Father Stan says. No spectatorship. Don't think politics is like a cricket match, a football match that you sit with a box of popcorn, eat and watch. You're a participant in that. I know a lot of people who sit and say, they should not have chosen batting. And they're not on the toss. Why did they choose batting? They should not have chosen batting. And the batting order also was not good. They should have fielded that person, fielded this person, the selection was wrong. All this comment is okay as long as it is a game where you're not playing, you're watching entertainment. But politics is not that. It is about us. So don't tell me tomorrow after election is over, no, the campaign was bad. They did not field correct candidates. Instead of fielding a Yadav, they should have fielded a Jack. Stop that. Don't be a spectator. Be a player. This is the time. We have been spectators for a long time. There's a supply of goodwill, secularism, pluralism, and all that. We enjoyed it. But today, it needs demand. It needs a participation. And it needs unity to face the consequences as far as that's concerned. There's one more thing like this. No, there's one more. He said, what should we do? This is what we should do. Today is dark. All of us. Tricolor and Janaganamana cannot be tampered with. Issue a one. How dare you? Can we do that? We have to do that. There is no other way. Don't go and tell the political party, please do this. They won't do it. Do you think they will do it? They won't do it. If at all, tomorrow there's another flag flying, they will also say it. They salute that flag. There's absolutely nothing. There are good people in those, but as institutions, they won't come to understand. It is time for civil society to take the country and the country's future into its own hands. Tough, but has to be done.
Thank you. Thank you for those very important questions that you asked and the very elaborate and succinct answers that came from Dr. Prabhakar. Do we have time for another round of questions? Another 3 questions can we take or places? Okay, yeah. So we will take another round of questions, and with that we will close this part of our please.
Sir, similar to what is happening in our country, but your talk was so intellectual, gave me a ray of hope that we can still fight it. Sir, I have 2 issues, and they're both related. I will question you the question. If today's dispensation has come into power, it is because there is 36.56% of vote they have got. What is that 60% doing? Is it that this political dispensation which is on the other side do not have a common goal to fight this 36%? Or is it time for the people to give up these politicians and come up and create a revolution to fight this 36.5%? Secondly, sir, the delimitation that is going to happen, our South is going to be of no importance. Isn't it time for South Indians to ask for a separate South India and get separated from the North India? Is it again the politicians who are playing the game, or is it time for us to have a 1947 revolution again? Thank you, sir.
Any other question? Anyone else has a question? Signatures, please.
You spoke about secularism, it was very nice. The whole of South India's chief ministers believe in secularism, comparing with North India. So, will these people stand to that day when it is needed?
Thank you. And one more question. Anyone has another question? That would be the last question that would be asked. Anyone else has a question? Any of these? Please.
Maybe Dr. Prabhakar, I have great regards for your speech and thoughts. My place I keep taking was, as you say, we have to raise the voice. Most of them who have raised their voice ended up in a very action. And that discourages the thing. My concern is today what we call the minorities in India are the majorities globally. How do you think the global interference should be there when such atrocities are happening in a country where we depend mostly on the international support? So, otherwise, as an individual, even if I raise my voice, tomorrow I will be trapped. Because the complete system is being controlled by the ruling party. The Supreme Court is an IPA court, the board. Whoever raised their voice, recently Sheikh Suman, who has again started criticizing the government, is already in trouble. We have got politicians in Sri Lanka, Bangalore is closest to paying 500 euros. So when this is the problem, so I just want to talk thoughts about it.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Prabhakar.
What is the 65%? Sleeping. You see, I have some friends in political parties. Good friends. What surprises me is that they may be in big positions. But when you speak to them on issues,
You'll be surprised at the kind of low appreciation of the wages that are still in our face. I'll give you an example. Before these Bengal, Bihar, Tamil Nadu elections, I went to these states. I went on Washington. Look, this Isaiah is a very dangerous thing. This is what I'm seeing. You're not going to win. Is it why? Because they're deletions. Brother, you know what they said? They said, don't worry. In my constituency, my voters are nominated. My voters are nominated. They're all safe. So I win. Stupid fellows, they did their voters. And they're so stupid. They win. But second thing is, those people who said, yes, our people are deleted. But last time, I won with 10,000 votes. This time, they deleted only 5,000 of my voters. I still have 5,000 and I'm going to make it. All of them lost. All of them lost. Imagine, in Tamil Nadu, the chief minister MK's dad, in his own constituency, 1 lakh voters were deleted. 1 lakh. He still thought that he would win. In Bengal, Mamata Banerjee's constituency, the deletions were 51,000. She lost by 7,000. But she thought she would win. Likewise, many people, I'm just giving you 2 dramatic examples of chief ministers, but there were many MLAs, many ministers. You know, there is a minister, there was a minister in Mamata Banerjee's cabinet whose ancestors were Telugu. Okay? Her great grandfather or grandfather hailed from Guntur. Because they were 2 generations ago, settled in Bengal. For all practical purposes, they are Bengalis, but you know, they have some soft corner for Telugu. So whenever I go, she used to meet me. She used to work at me. And whatever small Telugu words she picked up from the relatives or whatever, she used to do. She used to be much. Then during one of the times, I want her, she be careful in her constituency. And I have no problem. I managed everything. 100% Bakka, no problem. She lost. She messaged me after the election, and right, I lost the election. We lost the goal. So this complacency, sir, nothing is going to happen. They are not seeing the danger. And see, when you don't see the danger, and you don't want to, or you don't want to work hard to confront the danger, what you do is you join the women. Because it's easy. That's why you see MPs, ministers joining. Absolutely. No problem at all. I don't know how, but no problem. They're joining. So if Stalin cannot make me win, I will go and join police. That's what they're doing. So that is the reason why you can't depend on them. So whether they are 65% or 70% also doesn't matter. See, I tell you what, an organized small group can control and dominate and disorganize large group. You see, when 1,000, 2,000 of us are demonstrating on the street, how many police come? Not 1,000. 25 disciplined, armed people moving systematically, methodically, can control 1,000, isn't it? So, 20, 35, doesn't matter, it is organized. And on top of that, of course, I have shown how elections are being tampered, machines are being tampered, every 3 seconds a vote is cast, I don't know how it is cast. Is it humanly possible to cast that kind of a pace? I mean, all this is happening. So, what do you think about the government? Doesn't matter because your will, your opinion does not reflect in the ballot box, in the machine. You press something, something else is registered, something else is counted, something else is announced. This is so there's a problem. Ultimately, civil society. Then the delimitation. So delimitation, you went to a very extreme. Well, I don't find fault with you for going that way. But be cautious. We can still do something more. I tell you, don't think so. Who said the southern secularism and all that? Somebody had said, yeah. So, individual convictions are. But when you are seeking votes, you know, of course, you are an experienced person. Politicians tell you what you want to hear, isn't it? If I assume you're a Christian, yeah. If I were a Christian and a candidate, I'll come and tell you, one of Christians say, please vote for me, isn't it? Then I go to Parakala and say, your father and my father work in the same office, vote for me. And I go to Ravi and say, look, I have so many friends in Kerala. We studied together. And he was from Vayana, I'm also from Vayana. And what? So they give you different messages. So therefore, I come back to the point that unless there is a large, powerful demand for secularism, don't depend on these people to be secular and continue to be secular. If secularism doesn't pay, they will start doing something else. It's a delimitation related to this. People are looking at two things in delimitation. Actually, we have to look at two things in delimitation. But people are now looking at only one side of the delimitation. That is the Nala. Now, which is important. I'm not trying to, say that number is wrong. It is. See, as it is, sir, as it is, South India, all South Indian states in together are less than 2.5 northern states. Bihar, UP, even part of Madhya Pradesh, or Bihar, UP, or part of Rajasthan, Bihar, UP, and part of say Gujarat will wipe out the entire South Indian. Now, how much do we have in South India? 120. 129 plus 1 Pondicherry, 120. 80 in UP, 40 in Bihar, 42 in Bengal, half of them, or Madhya Pradesh, half of them, Rajasthan, half of them, finished. So you are rendered insignificant. Powerless. If all of you vote, if all South Indian states, irrespective of parties, vote on something, if 2 states, 2.5 states do something else, you go. But if the political force there is an inclusive political force, they will come. You see, when Tamil Nadu or South India said, don't impose Hindi, why did people listen? Because it was an inclusive political creed that was ruling. If they wanted nothing will and put it to vote, they would have wanted. But they didn't do that. They didn't do that because it's a different kind of a political force which was there all these years. But today, there's a different kind of a political force which is there, and therefore, the plurality of this country is in danger. Now, this is numbers. And in this context, I must say that some people are saying that delimitation, if the government of India is offering us uniform 50%, what's that? And you must have heard that argument. Some people are saying, I don't know where this thing. It's simple. Just to avoid odd numbers, let me deal with the even numbers. Even numbers, Kerala's Lok Sabha seats are 20. Even. UP's Lok Sabha seats are 8. Listen to it. Today, what is the difference between UP and Kerala? The number 6. 80 minus 20, 60. Now, imagine a 50% across the board increase. It looks equitable, isn't it? Well, you get 50%, I also get 50%. But what would Kerala get after 50% of this? It gets 50. Isn't it? What would UP get? 120. Isn't it? What is the difference between 120 and 30? 90. So earlier the difference was 60. It's becoming 90. Is that fair deal? It's wrong. People don't understand. Experienced politicians are saying this. I'm surprised. You don't have to be a Ramanujan or some delimitation 22, 23, 22. And Jammu and Kashmir also. Sir, it will happen in such a way. Suppose if I take this ball and throw it out, how does it spread? It spreads very unevenly, with some gaps between those. Assam constituencies and Jammu and Kashmir constituencies after delimitation today look like that. I tell you how. For instance, in a constituency, if these 2 booths are of the other color, then you put these 2 in a different constituency. It has nothing, no proximity, no contiguity. That constituency is somewhere else. But these 2 booths are there. And such booths are in this constituency, where there are no voters, or religion, language, whatever. So there is this, what is called packing and packing. You pack all your booths into one constituency, wherever they are. and call it one constituency. The reason for that is, suppose if there are two constituencies where there are mixed populations, they're different religions or languages in one particular constituency. Similarly, this. So in these two constituencies, I win neither. I don't win at all. Both the constituencies I lose. But if I do it this way, then I will definitely win one constituency. The other constituency, the other party, the other candidate might win by 90,000 votes. Here I might win only by 10,000 votes. How does it matter? Because after whether you win by 90,000 is in there or 10,000 is in there, your vote is the same. So my number in the Lok Sabha doesn't matter whether my MP is won with one vote or 50,000 votes, isn't it? So I am prepared to lose a constituency by 90,000 votes and I am prepared to win one constituency by 2,000 votes. Because at least I get one seat, one place, isn't it? So that is another danger. And so in the delimitation discourse, this particular thing is not brought in. People are only talking about how much South India, how much Andhra Pradesh, how much Karnataka, how much Kerala, how much UP. That's not only thing. This is equally, if not more important. So delimitation is not. Should there be two countries? Not necessarily. Not necessarily because we are, as I told you, already we are vis-a-vis 2.5 states in the North India, we are already minority. But still, we did not feel that because we did not have an exclusivist regime so far. Once that comes, the solution is not separation. Solution is to defeat that and have a structure, a polity which respects federal values, which respects plural values, which respects secular and diversity and liberty. Everybody has a place in this country. That is what we need to work for. I am not prepared to take the extreme stand and say, forget about it. Then you will start fighting. Should Tamil Nadu be bigger or Telugu, Andhra Pradesh be bigger or Telangana? All these things. But that's not the solution. The solution is we can live together. We have lived together. That is the mandate of our constituency. Sister had read out the preamble of the constitution. You read it. So look at that. We have to defend. That is what Father Swamy had laid out his life. That's it. So don't think of those kind of extremes. Now, raising voice, people are being killed, or people are being Swamy, we have seen, and they are being jailed, prison, all that. This will happen. What do you expect? You expect me or you to raise the voice and they come and target you? They won't. They won't. You have to and stand and say, I am ready to listen in, face the consequences. Face the consequences. We have to face the consequences because this is our government. We have to protect this government. Don't outsource the protection of our republic and its democracy to political parties and leaders. Take it into your hands. We have to. Thank you.
I think we have come to a very important evening.
This is just one. Sir, sorry, I missed out on international intervention. Who said? Somebody talked about international. You said? Oh. Sir, this is very important. You know, there is still a window now open. We can still do something. But if we use this window, once this kind of fascist regimes fully consolidated, I have not seen even one example in the world history where a consolidated, full-fledged, strong, dictatorial, authoritarian, majoritarian regime falling or dethroned by its own people. Never happened. Has it happened? Iran, Germany, Italy, Spain, nowhere. Then an international state. India, thankfully, still has. But if we use this, if we use this small window of opportunity, then God help them. So, let us act.
Thank you. It has been a very informative, profound, very bold and very courageous words that we have heard. Thank you, Dr. Prabhakar. And as we celebrate the life and the death of Father Stan, I think there are some very important takeaways from this evening. One is that if India has any claim to being a Vishwaguru, it is this one thing that can make India make that claim. Diversity in all its dimensions, and that is the task that is before each of us. If there is a second takeaway, it is make speaking truth to power a habit. Those who fear are those who lie, and those who fear, those who speak truth do not fear. Be among those who dare to speak truth to power. Make it a habit of each of us who are gathered here. The third, constitution and constitutional values and constitutional rights is a powerhouse. Never give it up. The only crime perhaps that Father Stan committed, the only crime is that he protected the constitutional rights of the Adivasi people. Make the constitution, any threat to the constitution, any threat to the tricolor, the flag, the symbols of what India is. If there is any threat, dare to speak out and stand forward. And I think the fourth takeaway of such a large gathering here is the power of memory. Commemorating Father Stan is not just an act of remembrance. It is an act of democratic dissent in all its essence. And as we conclude, I think, this momentous memorial lecture, I especially want to thank Dr. Prabhakar for setting us on this path that is necessary, absolutely necessary for the future of this country. Father Stan taught us that a caged bird can still sing. Our collective presence here proves that this song has turned today into a chorus of resistance that cannot be silenced. this gathering is a reminder that the song that first man began with his life and with his death is being echoed in the chorus that we are singing together today. I want to thank each of you who are here, and many who would be following us. In fact, it is it's on the YouTube live. There are a lot of people who are listening to us, who have been listening to Dr. Prabhakar. I want to thank all of you. I want to thank the organization for this wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you, Dr. Prabhakar. Now to Sister Panchi.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Jonathan. Before we go for felicitation, on my own, I would like to say a word of gratitude for the inspiration, the simplicity, and the humility with which we have such a magnanimous person in our midst, someone who is full of wisdom and knowledge, and the mixture of humility and simplicity, and a man of hope, a prophet, who is so similar to Father Swamy. Let's all put our hands together and give him a great round of applause. Thank you so very much. I now request Mr. Sleva Galli and Mr. James Sylvester, along with this team of Catholic Association of Hyderabad, to felicitate Dr. Parakala Prabhakar. Just 2 more minutes before we just wind it up, and I request all the dignitaries, Dr. Babu Rao, Dr. Lugna, Ms. Sandra Matthews, Ms. Sajna, and Father Selvi, and Father Kishore, Father Thomas Varidana, and Ms. Meera Sangamitra, please come over for a minute. Big appreciation to all of you for having come here, please. Hurry up, James. Yeah, come. Hurry up. Let's give a big hand up. much. We are already running short of time. I request all of you to be seated and we just have a word of thanks and concluding with the national anthem. Please, 2 minutes. James, over to James.
I really thank God for giving us Father Stan Swamy. Father Stan Swamy has been an inspiration to all of us. Though we have not met him, though we have not seen him, we have seen his works, and today we are inspired to be here. God bless him. We also thank Dr. Prabhakar for being here. We had only seen him on the TV or in connection, but today we see him live where he has presented such a good lecture. Not only lecture, interacting with us. I think that was great of interacting. Thank you very much, sir, for being here. Thank you, sir, for being here, and thank you for all this cannot happen by us lay people. But I thank Brother Varghese, who has been an inspiration for us every time. Last time also when we spoke, brother had been a pushing force, saying that don't be in the well, be out of the well, take everyone together and go. And thank you very much, brother, for this. Sister Manju, thank you very much, sister, because she has taken the whole room, being with us and leading us. We had a lot of discussions with her. Father Kishore, thank you very much, Father Kishore, for giving us this place. The provincial who has given us and told Dr. Shailendra to be with us and give us the talk. Thank you very much, Father. Thank you very much, Father Kishore. Thank you, Father Selvin, who has come all the way from Adilabad. Then we have also I'd like to thank Mr. Siva Gandhi, who has been an inspiration, our backbone, a fatherly figure for us, who has been, and also all the civil society members who have come. And we are very sorry we could not hear from you. Yes, but we are very thankful that you all have been here. And all those sisters who have come, all the eminent people, personalities who are here, thank you, Mr. Babarao, who is here. Thank you very much for all. I'd like to thank our Catholic Association Managing Committee, who has discussed, let us go out of the walls, meet people, interact with people. As Sarah said, being silent is wrong. We need to be vocal. I think we are starting to become vocal. So thank you very much, sir, for giving us inspiration. Thank you, our managing committee members, for all. Thank you, Father, for giving us this space. And thank you, one and all, for coming and gracing this occasion. We also we like to thank our bishop, Anna Bishop, whom we have already informed about this program, and thank you for blessing us. Thank you, everyone. And we have our brothers who had sung, Pastor Sunil Dongala, and also we have another brother also. So thank you all, brothers, for being here. We had the anthem by Mr. Peria. Thank you very much. And God bless you all. We have dinner. Please relax. Let us have interaction with each other. And thank you all. Thanks, my dear members. Thank you.
Before we stand for the national anthem, just a request for all of us as a Christian community here. It's all civil society together. But there are a lot more of meetings of this sort, whether it is SIM or Father Stan Swamy or other social issues and the concerns that are happening all around the society. There are a lot more that are happening. One of the things I'm really missing out is that there was no one speaker. We did have a couple of names in the list, but none of you could really, due to time and other things. By next year, this is now Manasula Mata. We should have an award of Father Stan Swamy for outstanding people who have been into socially involved into marginalized groups and fearless in the wake of all these calamities that are taking place in our society. And from next onwards, it's not merely a memorial event, but also an event that would recognize people in the name of Father Stan Swamy, who will also be living forever in our hearts. So with this note, we will all stand together and wind it up with the national anthem. Swamy. Amar Rahe Father Stan Swamy. Amar Rahe Father Stan Swamy. There is a nice meal being arranged. Please don't miss it. Thank you.
My name is Sridhar. Xavier Dias. Xavier Dias, who worked with Pakistan. Xavier Dias is in Chaibasa.
Sir, excuse me. Sir,
I am a contemporary of Xavier